Hey everyone, welcome to the channel. Today we are back again with another Dragonheir video, and in this one we will be going over the 12 elemental exclusive champions. So a lot of these elemental exclusive people know about. If you go to your artifact shop, you will be able to see the 6 exclusive champions, and I'll be going over them as well. But more importantly, I want to go over the ones that are not well known, and these are also exclusive units. And what it means is that whenever you go over your events, right? So any of these special supply banners, these celestial alternative summons, they will never be on it. All right, so we have summons till about December 3rd, and they will never be on it. That's the reality of it, and that's why these banners are never attractive. They have good champions. It's not that they don't have good champions. Like, for example, the one that we have right now is it's decent. Like, Urganda is pretty good. It's one of the best tanks for arena. Vanyara is pretty good. Oster is really good. Zephyr is really good. But since there are no elemental exclusive, which are usually tend to be better than overall champion pool anyways, there's no reason for me to like pull these champions, right? And another thing to note, that the pity is not shared between these two banners. So even if you want somebody like Arganda from this banner, you can try to go for it, but it's going to be very you have to go very deep on average, right? And the pity is not going to be shared. It's not like I have like 34 healer light dice open on the regular banner, and now I'm just opening one for this banner. So, but regardless, I think this is more of a review of these 12 exclusive. One of them so let's go by fire first. And in fire, we have 2 exclusive, Flora and Kairosos. We'll discuss Flora quite often on this channel, so I'm going to be refraining from talking about her that much. She is one of the best PvE units in the game. That's it. Like, there's no other champion whose damage comes close to what Flora can do. But we're going to talk about Kairosos. So he's another elemental exclusive, and he's staggeringly good in both arena and in PvE, right? So he's part of my Vortex comp. He's also there in my 3v3 team for arena. Generally speaking, fire is not that great in arena. There are like a handful of champions that are really good, like Kairosos, Korika. I think outside of them, not much good champions there, but he is an amazing tank, and he has some amazingly cool features where he has this, whenever his shield is depleted or dispelled or vanishes, that means that it expires. 50% of that shield is consumed or will be converted into healing. So that's pretty good that he has this self-healing, and even his inspirations has self-healing capability. So he becomes very impossible to kill, especially in top arena where people have max inspired Kairosos. I personally don't have a max inspired one, but he is amazing. On his ultimate, he's going to do an AoE. This is a true AoE attack down, and he also grants a shield. And this shield is very high, right? Like, so if you look it up, it's 25% of the target's max HP shield. So if you have a very tanky units, they're gonna get big shield on them. And he also brings in a shield for target's max HP shield to the lowest HP, and this is fine, but it's only there for one, and he also dispels one buff from them. So that's pretty good. Like, in this range, it's a very short range, so it's good for bosses if you're fighting against the ancient battlefield or the Grave of Curse. This will come in really handy, so you can remove that attack, that pesky attack buff that the boss gets, which basically annihilates your team. Overall, this is a very good champion, and in Vortex, where you need these survivabilities, like, he is exceptional for that too. And these are the 2 exclusive only available in fire. The next one that actually comes a little bit close, I think, is Garika, just because of her utility in PvP, but nobody is that good, honestly, in fire. Like, their utility is very low overall, just because the affinity itself doesn't really have great supports. Epics have some amazing support. You will find Adolphus, who's amazing, Isolde, and they're really good, but for top arena content, you really need like legendaries who can do a lot more, which is really missing from this affinity. And even early game, it's very hard to build, both survivability within this team. You just have Kairosos, who's going to be your main source of survivability in this faction. But overall, yeah, it's not that much that you can have in this faction. That's the problem. Let's move on to Frost. Frost is the most dominating force in Arena. Like, there is no other affinity that comes remotely close to how powerful Frost is versus any other affinity. I think the summons Necrotic would be probably this time around is close because they're paired with Frost, but other than that, there is no affinity that comes close. Maybe Radiance, but outside of that, there's very little competition that Frost has, and that's mainly because of these two exclusive. These two exclusive they create a lot of mayhem, and one of them was nerfed heavily from beta to now. So the first one is going to be Havita. And Havita, for those of you who don't know, is probably one of the best DPS, even if you don't have DPS gear on her. And the reason that I say that is, let's say you pair her up with another DPS source, and you can build her with accuracy and a lot of HP and defense. Her passive is wild. Like, you know, if somebody below HP is 15%, they're going to be executed. And this execution ignores immortality buff. So if you have an Ogok in your team and you go and ult before the Havita and think like, oh, I'm going to be safe, but no, you're not. This actually goes through immortality completely. And the biggest thing with her artifact is that it increases this HP below threshold to 25%. So anything 75% of your HP is all you have to play with. The immortality doesn't work. Zephy works. So if Zephy has 30%, so that's why he works. If you place an invincibility below this threshold, 15 or 25, depending upon whether you have this artifact, yeah, you're dead. So that's why she's so powerful. And her battle skill, if you build her with damage, this deals quite a lot of damage. It's 320% attack, which is quite significant for a battle skill. And the range is what really gets you, because it's not just hitting it will go through the tank and hit your DPS as well. So there's no placement that you can pick that will protect you from this, especially on offense. On defense, you can just ignore this 3-tile range and place your units in the remaining 3 tiles. So it becomes easier. But on defense, like if I have a avatar for offense, I will just place her right in front of the nuker, and this battle skill is going to take care of him. And the next up is the menace of beta. She was so powerful in beta because she used to get skill haste on her. She was powerful for 2 reasons. First was the hourglass artifact was very different. It used to straight up reduce the initial recharge time of the ultimate by 5 seconds. It didn't used to give you accuracy. And the second thing that it was so busted was that her inspiration at level 3 would give you skill haste. And this is why I've repeatedly said on my channel that, skill haste and initial ult reduction on inspiration should not be there. Just give them something else. And that's what they did. They changed it. So now she's much more manageable, but she's still a menace. And the biggest part of her kit is her ultimate, where she's going to place buffs, but she also is going to reduce the ultimate energy by 50% and charm them. Charm is really powerful because your DPS units start attacking each other. So if you have too many DPS, they basically take care of themselves. And next up is like her passive, which, I mean, blind is good and all, but it's the fact that her resistance is increased equal to her accuracy. So in a one-on-one battle against another El Sabre, you want higher accuracy. That's pretty much it. That's the only way that you can beat it out if you are missing on skill haste. And generally in a battle of one-on-one El Sabre, if you have higher accuracy and you're slower, you will generally win. Because the way the ult reduction of 50% works is that so say for example, somebody does it to me, but when my El Sabre goes with her ultimate, since she resisted the other El Sabre, the ult energy of your champions would be higher. So even though that I went later with my El Sabre, I will still be able to ult with my DPS units first. So she is a total menace. She's amazing for PvE as well. She's a very hard carry. I used to use her for Heretical Ruins a lot early game, because when you don't have gear, you can charm the little minions and they start attacking the boss as well. So it's kind of funny. Havata is okay in PvE. I won't say like she's total trash, but the Frost is so good in PvP that it suffers as a balance to PvE mostly. Like the high scores you were going to see on Vortex, the continental bosses. Like I have left my Frost team up till now because yeah, there's no way for me to like get like a solid damage in, even though I have every unit there. But it's just that I know that the other teams are going to be better. Now this week I have no choice, so I have to use this team. But I would keep this team for last for continental bosses, just because the amount of damage you can do to bosses is very limited. It's amazing overall. The amount of support and the amount of utility these champions have is insane. Each one of them is really, really good, except for Hokadir. I think Hokadir is the only exception who's okay-ish, pretty much. But all the legendaries here are just phenomenal. Next up, we have Necrotic, and Necrotic has two exclusive as well, similar to everything else. The first one is Lilwanis, however you want to pronounce it. She gets this passive where she takes a while to get going, but when she does get going, I think she is crazy DPS for arena. If you're struggling against people who have these crazy high tanky teams which are just healing and whatnot, she is the one who can one-shot them, because her passive, which stacks up to 20 times, increases 1.5% extra attack and 1.5% extra crit damage. So at max stacks, she has 30% of each, and then she's also ignoring 35% of the enemy defense, which is huge, and she can hit like a truck. So I used to rely on her not so long ago, but I think now my teams are more refined in late mid-season, but initially I used to rely on her a lot to kill those tanky teams, because yeah, it's very hard. And especially if you have her exclusive artifact, it makes her easier to get those stacks, because she will have those 3 of her minions on her battle skill, these corpses, right away. But the next one is the one that is the hardest to kill in arena. He is one of those units which have this amazing passive, right? He's going to heal the hero, and he increases his HP by up to 50% HP. And I have done like, there's some, not mine, but like I've dealt with some of these Berengars in arena who have dealt like 150k damage, but it's like half their HP damage. I was like surprised and like shocked at the same time. It takes a while to get him down if you don't have heal reduction, or you don't have, same with the Berengar, heal reversal, you won't get it. And he has the only one I know of that has this debuff, healing reversal. It's very funny to see it in action, because I've had one-on-one of Berengar versus Urgander and some like healers, and they basically just kill themselves with healing. Once this debuff is on them, like if whatever healing they're doing, they take like the same amount of damage or similar amount of damage. Also, he has a sphere, and he can hit surprisingly hard. So his damage is based off of max HP, right? So his max HP increases quite significantly, and if he crits you, yeah, your DPS are dead basically. And especially early game, it takes a very long time to kill him. So he's amazing as well in arena and in certain PvE bosses. Overall, this unit, these two exclusives are not meant that much for PvE, simply because the utility in PvE is low, where you want like attack down, you want you want derivative DPS damage, but they still do decently in PvE. Like Berengar is not going to die anytime soon. So there's one thing that you can have in a tank is like, you know, self-healing capabilities. So he's overall decent still in a lot of places, but he's not going to protect you against AoE attacks from the bosses. Lulana, similar way, she is amazing DPS, but she is not as great as some of the other PvE units. Like if you're talking about like for Vortex, like the combination of Sharlak and Galliore is going to beat out Leolanis and Premstar. So those are things that you gotta consider when you're building a team, but these two exclusives are amazing in Arena. Next up is Radiance. Radiance, I think, is probably one of the most balanced affinity out there. It's good both in PvE and in PvP. They have amazing champions regardless. And the two exclusives that are in there are side by side. It's going to be Telandor and Mithracy. Telandor was recently fixed for max inspiration. I don't think that many people would have noticed even because there are very few people who have him max inspired. But he brings an amazing aura, 45% attacks in dungeon battle. I don't think there's anybody else who has a 45% for dungeon battles yet. So if you're using him for dungeons, definitely a way to boost your attack. I also use him in my goblin team, and the goblin runs are like 25, 24 seconds, something like that. So it's very fast to do goblins with this guy. And his ultimate is where it really shines. And if you have the exclusive artifact, it kind of treats it as that he already has rally. So it alleviates the rally requirement from his ultimate. And these moonbeams hit really, really hard. He's amazing for Arena, especially easy to build because of his high crit rate already. You can stack up a lot of crit damage. He is melee though, so like it is difficult to keep him alive, but the support units and Radiance are absolutely amazing, right? So you also have somebody, the second exclusive, Mithracy, who's the only true resurrector of this game. No matter how many champions are dead, she's going to revive them all. So also she places like a debuff immunity on them, and she puts a resurrection on death buff on them, so if they die right away they can come back up. But what this game doesn't really tell you is that on inspiration this skill becomes broken, right? Because on her third inspiration level she revives at full HP, right? So instead of resurrecting at 30% of max HP when the hero is skilled, she's going to revive them at full HP. So that's when she becomes truly annoying. And this buff that she places whenever somebody's about to die is also pretty annoying, because it's kind of like one of those artifacts, the Dark Corpse Puppet, right? So it places an invincibility and invincibility for 5 seconds whenever they're about to die, basically, right? So fatal hit. And she does the similar thing where she places a recovery over time and immortality, so basically making them unkillable, and also places invincibility. So that's like an artifact value you're getting from a passive, basically. So it's pretty strong, and this healing is really, really strong and the widest range for any battle skill. There's no other champion in this game that has such a wide battle skill heal and at such a significant value, right? And overall she's also providing you with recovery over time. So she is truly an amazing support unit, especially for Arena and early game play, right? So early game, when you're at the threat of dying, she's going to keep the team alive, and if they're dead, like, revive them. Notable mention here is Acelia, who should have been, I feel like she's very close to an exclusive personally, but yeah, not an exclusive though. So you can get her from banners, but she's pretty good too. Next up we have Lightning. Lightning, I think, like, deserves some love. I personally think like they are good in PvE to similar level of Radiance, but they're not as good as in PvP, even close to what the Radiance team can do. So they definitely need some love. There's some really interesting champs here, but like Tamar, Zephy, they're pretty good in Arena, but their value drops very significantly as the season progresses. So early season I was using them a lot, especially Tamar, and you can still make a team with them and Radiance, but like last season Lightning was paired with Summons and we didn't really see them at all in Arena. Next season I'm not sure what Lightning is going to be paired with, but I don't think it's going to be that strong even then, unless it's paired with like somebody like Poison or something, but we'll see what it's paired with. But they can do really good in PvE though. Like I've had some like really fast dungeon runs with these teams, similar to what a wild comp would do. But on Vortex is where they're just harder to keep alive. Maybe next season it will be different for them. So in this one, the exclusives are Nazjenka, who is, I think they may have. So this was a redesigned champion, but I also feel like they redesigned her kit, not from beta but from early days, because her artifact still reads that it increases the damage, the derivative damage dealt. But on her kit, there's no derivative damage to be found, right? She still hits like a truck. Don't get me wrong. Especially this passive Blackstock Feathers, they hit incredibly hard after her ultimate, and they join in with your Dauntless Hero. So if Dauntless Heroes are attacking somebody, these feathers are going to fly off and hit that person, and they do crazy amount of damage, but not enough for a derivative damage dealer, right? And that's why I think like she was originally designed for PvE, where she would deal derivative damage, but somehow they changed her kit somewhere. At least that's what I feel like. But she would have been much better if she had derivative damage. But she has pretty high crit damage, very low crit rate, but she gets 7.5 from her passive. And you can build her with a lot of attack speed, a lot of crit rate, crit damage. She's going to smack. She is good for arena. She is the best jumper in the game. It's a 0-second start, so she's always going to go off with this thing and go towards the lowest HP, their nuker, and just strike them 3 times. It doesn't work with Leolanis though, especially if Leolanis have her special artifact, the exclusive artifact. So Leolanis is going to spawn 3 corps first before Nazjenka jumps. So Nazjenka jumps on those corpses instead of Leolanis. So just keep that in mind when you're facing Leolanis in arena. Just to make sure that she doesn't have her exclusive artifact before using your Nazjenka. But overall, solid DPS champion. Nothing really special, as close to like Flora or Leolanis in her kit, but she does do incredible damage though. And the next up is Grishna. Grishna is going to keep your DPS alive with his passive. Not his passive, his battle skill. His ally protection. This is also guaranteed to be cast as the battle starts. So it's like a 0-second initial cooldown. I don't know why it says 5 seconds, and this doesn't make any sense to me. But it's going to provide an ally protection to that champion and with the highest attack. Overall though, it's not as great as a champion as I was hoping it would be. I was missing Gishna for the longest time, and I got him this season itself. But when I test him, the kid doesn't feel that good. Like I would rather use Sagomir in Vortex than him. It's just weird to me how his kit is overall. Maybe for arena, like that protecting your DPS is good, but overall, like compared to some of the other tanks in the game which are not exclusive, as a elemental exclusive, this champion really lags. I feel like he needs a buff badly. I think lightning in general needs a buff. Even Nazjenka needs a buff to be compared to other exclusive units in the game. That jumping ability is crazy, but I feel like there should be something more, like either increase her damage or do something else with her kit to make it on par with some of the other elemental exclusive in the game. Next up is going to be Poison, and this Poisoner Lothair is similar to Flora. I've talked about him a lot on the channel, and his derivative damage is based on the number of poison stacks you already have on the enemy, and if you have like 40 or something at level, with his exclusive artifact, he can hit up to 1 million per hit, which is insane. And Poison actually has some amazing support as well. They have one of the best tanks, they have one of the best healers. So it's overall a great affinity pool that Lothair can really benefit from. What is very interesting to me is the newly edition Reta. She is an elemental exclusive as well, but her kit is somewhat weird, right? And this is another exclusive legendary that I feel like needs a buff. Like pulling an exclusive legendary in this game should mean a lot. Like you should treat these 12 champions like mythical, right? If you've played from Raid Shadow Legends mythical champions, if you've played 7DS LR champions. So there are like a lot of different games which always have this one tier slightly ahead of the legendary pool, and these are the 12 elemental exclusive that should be there. But her kit is weird, right? It's hard to explain like why it's weird. It's firstly for each debuff. This is really good. It gives off a new type of a debuff on the. It shows us as a debuff on the enemy, right? And you can see like how much less damage they're doing, how much stacks you have already on them. So it's going to be up to 5 times. So it's 30% damage negation, which is a lot, but consider the requirement for it. So each debuff is not as like you can stack like 50 poison, it's going to work, right? It's going to max it out. It doesn't work like that. It counts at all the stacks as one. So if you have like poison, you can have attack down, you can have heal prohibition, buff prohibition. So you need a lot of debuffs to counteract that. Next up is her battle skill. It's an amazing battle skill. Attack penalty 2, accuracy penalty 2. Fine. I'm perfectly fine with it. She's going to deal in a wide range as well. It's not just a single target, so it can be used in PvE a lot, especially against a melee DPS unit. It's the ultimate that feels weird. It's a very new mechanic that they've added, and it's not on anybody else. This debuff extension extends the duration of all debuffs on all enemies by 5 seconds. So it will extend your defense penalty from your the crown or the witches remain. It is also going to extend any heal prohibition, buff prohibition. It's not going to extend any poison or frost, but this is not enough. I feel like there should have been, instead of this defense up, if she did something like a big heal on your champions, it would be amazing. Or remove this attack penalty 2 and place it on the ultimate. Even that alone is a big change. The other problem with her is that her attack is way too high, right? For a support unit, it's 1511, and her HP way too low. It needs to be close to like 35k base HP, so she can be used. She dies very quickly in Vortex. I tried her. This cleansing, this damage reduction thing really takes time to kick in, and yeah, overall her kit is okayish. Like, it's a very interesting and new kit, don't get me wrong, and maybe there's some sort of mechanic that I've missed, but overall, like, this ultimate needs to be better for her to be placed on a Vortex comp, because you have somebody like Ogok who truly deserves the title of an elemental exclusive in this game. He provides immortality and then heals by an enormous amount. It's like a full heal for your whole team with a 5-second delay. Then he's healing and cleansing from in the entire time he's healing you, he's also going to cleanse you. He also places attack penalty 2, which is the most important debuff in the game. I really don't care about accuracy penalty 2. Maybe healing prohibition would have been better for Rata, but it's just accuracy penalty 2. If she placed like attack penalty 2 and healing prohibition, I would still understand that it's meant to be for a PvE unit, a PvP unit. But yeah, overall it's pretty bad. Like, sure, 45% in City of Trial battle, I have never used it, and I don't really think like I've cared enough to use HP auras in PvE style games. Like, I would personally use like damage auras. So that's the problem with Rata. And personally, Lothair is amazing. He is a melee, he can jump, he can be used in PvE, he can be used in PvP, but he's not as good as in PvP versus PvE. But overall, Rata definitely deserves to be reconsidered entirely. I mean, she is worse than Krishna. So yeah, that's the lowest rated exclusive hero that I think there is. But yeah, let me know your thoughts below. What do you think about these 12 exclusive champions? And if you're lucky enough to pull some of these, I'm always searching for exclusive champions, especially in the Frost. They're amazing. But let me know your thoughts below, like what you think about this exclusive heroes, or should there even be exclusive heroes? Maybe we should get them on a banner as well. I really hope they do make an end of season banner where these 12 exclusive champions are there. I'll see you guys next time. Until then, take care.